Welcome to another live episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 411. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail is not going to be with us this evening. As regular listeners of the show know, she also teaches on the side. And tonight, it happened to be a night where she's going to be in the classroom teaching, so she will not be with us this evening. But along with yours truly and Daniel from For Boxing News, we have first time guest here on Pound for Pound Boxing Report, um, Abraham Gonzalez, of contributor for Pro Box TV, Fanside MMA, uh, and Ring Magazine. What's going on, Abraham?
Hey, how you guys doing? Thank you for having me on. I know it's the first time. I appreciate it, and yeah, let's get it on.
Pleasure's all ours. The pleasure's all ours. Thanks for accepting the invite. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and blog, etc., discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science in any way, I hope to have Daniel back on. He went away. He vanished for a minute, but hope to have him back. For those who are in other anyway, if it pertains to boxing in any capacity, it will get discussed. For those who want to find out any and all information about Pound for Pound uh, Boxing Report, the site is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.com. If you wish to email us, you can do so, p4pboxing at p4pboxingreport.com. On the site, you'll find where to find us all over social media, links to the YouTube channel, links to the Facebook, Twitter, IG, Tumblr page, also links where to find us. You'll find the show all over the podcast realm, be it Spotify, be it Anchor, be it Google Podcast, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, you should be able to find Pound for Pound Box Report. Also on the page, got a Cash Me PayPal donation link. Let donation be the best nation. Wouldn't matter if it's $1, $2, $5. If you have some spare change on your hand, we will gladly accept any contribution that'll help the overall production behind the scenes. Last but certainly not least, now that we're officially in summer, if you're looking to get your body right, please check out the link to BODI, formerly known as Beachbody On Demand. Programs for all suitable goals and interests. At the very least, take advantage of the 2-week trial, and that is for 14 days. You get free access to any and all programs on BODI. Excuse me, whether it be challenging programs like 6 weeks of the work, 645, whether it's programs like Morning Meltdown for those who look to get them workouts done in the AM. If you're looking to lift weights, check out Lift 4 and the new program Lift More. If you're looking for a boxing specific program, please check out 10 Rounds. That is a 6-week program, 3 days a week of boxing based cardio, 2 days a week of resistance and weightlifting work. Again, at the very least, take advantage of the 2-week trial, for the 2-week free 14-day trial. Let's get things going this evening and recap the big fight of the weekend, and that was with the ladies over in the UK. Franchon Crews been out of the ring for a while. Abraham, and undisputed women's super middleweight champion, finally made her return to the ring against Savannah Marshall. Her last time out, Marshall, many people remember, was in a losing effort to Clarissa Shields for undisputed 160 pounds. Marshall moved up to 168. And to me, Crews-Dezurn got off to a decent start, but she went a little bit too fast. She couldn't keep it up. Marshall slowly got her way back into the fight. Really started to take a semblance of control in the middle rounds and kind of close things out at the end. She got the decision. I think it was closer, a little closer than the scorecards had it, particularly one scorecard. I believe they had it like 98, 92, something to that effect. I thought it was closer than that. But in the end, Marshall got the win. a lot of things with a lot of the talk afterwards about a potential rematch between Marshall and Shields at 168 pounds. Clarissa Shields she was in the building before the fight. But for me, Abraham, and you can follow up Daniel, um, I don't want to see a rematch between Shields and Marshall. Before we see that potential bout, Marshall has to deal with Shadeja Green, mandatory challenger, right? Has really made a splash this year, particularly with Green's last outing, uh, with her beating up Ellen Sideros, right? Uh, she is kind of the it fighter. Many people consider her the boogie woman of the division. For those who've seen her, the comparisons to Ann Wolf are constant. Uh, talk about the fight if you want, but let's talk about the future here. Before any talk of a rematch between Shields and Marshall, is Shadeja Green owed a mandatory type a shot, given that she's mandatory contender?
Yeah, so that's gonna happen. She has Jake Paul behind her, and she's gonna be part of probably a big event, especially with Paul. With Most Valuable Promotions. It's the fight that's gonna happen next. I do not see the Clarissa Shields rematch at 168 happening next. It's not going to happen. Savannah Marshall even kind of alluded to it a little bit in her post-fight interview, saying, "Yeah, uh, but I'm gonna have to, see you about my mandatories." And she went down that road. So I don't think that fight is gonna happen anytime soon. At least not this year. But Green is next. The Sweet Terminator, yeah, she's got next, and she's gonna be a handful. She is gonna be a handful. I want to see that fight. I don't know. I don't know if Marshall has enough to keep her off of her, and I like that fight. I like that fight better than the rematch with Clarissa Shields.
To Abraham's point, Daniel, um, the Sweet Terminator, Shadeja Green, she's going to be tough to beat. You can't tell me that a major part of the major reason that Crews-Dezurn took the fight with Marshall was because she did not want to see Shadeja Green in the ring, and she decided to go in for the money, substantially bigger payday in a fight with Marshall, as opposed to running it up against Green. And I'm not saying that Savannah Marshall is not a good fighter. She is, right? She proved it even in defeat against Shields because she was coming on in the end. But based on what I saw of her in this fight, if the version of Savannah Marshall that we saw against Crews-Dezurn shows up against the Deja Green, she's losing.
Yeah, that's the bad part about it when you look at it. The way Marshall looked in this fight didn't give any confidence, whether it is to rematch Clarissa. Like you mentioned, she came out really late in the fight. Not so much that it hurt Clarissa really badly, but you could see she could make it more competitive if if she would have put it on a little bit more earlier in that fight with Clarissa. And unfortunately, yeah, Shadej Green is a problem. She is a problem in that division. In the division, eventually somebody's gonna have to see her. And if that's Marshall, good on you, but it's not gonna look good. To me, pretty much the situation's falling into all roads are gonna wind up leading because luckily Clarissa does seem to be the person that likes to take on challenges where people say that she's more of the underdog. She did it with Christina Hammer. She did it with Marshall. I would not be surprised if she winds up doing it against Shadeja Green. Would it be a firefight?
Yeah,
Yes. But that's probably where it's leading to it.
yeah. the question will be, will the BC and the BA specifically uh, order a fight between Green and Marshall? Um, it's to the point with me with Shadeja Green. Would I pick her in a fight against Shields? Not necessarily, but she would be the toughest. She would be the toughest fight of Clarissa Shields' career, in my opinion. I think she's that good. But again, I can't emphasize this enough. I know the talk is of a Marshall Shields fight here in the United States, but no, not for me. I want to see the Sweet Terminator get her title shot, and let's hope that she gets her shot next and before the end of the year. Let's move from England onto the United States, Ohio to be specific, and Jared, the real Big Baby Anderson, being hyped a lot by Top Rank and ESPN, being hyped a lot by excuse me, fans as the future of the heavyweight division. And Daniel, he was in the ring with former IBF champion Charles Martin, and Big Baby got the win, and for the most part was in control, but there were moments of concern for me. Say what you want about Martin, he was able to tag Big Baby and even stun him, particularly at the very end of the fight, where I felt he wobbled him. He wobbled him in other points of the fight. So while Big Baby, he got the win, right? And it was a progression. It was a step up in class and competition. To me, there are many more answers that are raised now about Big Baby post in the aftermath of this fight. I know there's a lot of talk about him, but should those at Top Rank and ESPN kind of slow down the hype train on this dude? Because to me, there are some vulnerabilities that are being exposed about him.
Yes. To put it bluntly, yes, because this was supposed to be a showcase fight, whether it was the original fighter or with Charles Martin. It's supposed to be the classic hometown coming in, get the big knockout, put yourself on the table as the next contender or prospective contender in the heavyweight division, especially in the American part. The problem, unfortunately, is that one, Jared didn't really stick to the jab throughout the fight. He did it early on, and then started slacking off a little bit in the fourth round when it looked like he started to be headhunting. Thinking that Martin was going to be an easy knockout, and then the fifth round happened, where Martin landed a left hand, and that's probably the one where Jared was wobbled the worsted in that sense. And that's when Charles Martin actually figured out that he could land his left hand almost at will with the way Jared Anderson was fighting. He did try to reestablish the jab as the fight went on, but at the same time, he wasn't making the adjustment in preventing Martin from landing the left hand, and he kept landing it throughout the second half of the fight, up to the point right there, 9:56 in round 10. Lands a beautiful shot, and if it would have been 10 to 15 seconds earlier, you might have gotten a knockdown, which would have negated the knockdown that Anderson got, I think, in the third against Martin. It does show that there is a lot to learn now. Remember, this is the first fight that Jaron Anderson had, I think, that went past the sixth round. And you could tell that he was starting to labor a little bit. it is a good learning experience for him because now you see that you have to do certain things because even as somebody that like Charles Martin, which say what you will of how he got the IBF title, he was still a champion at that point, and it took Anthony Joshua to take him from him. So good learning lesson. Would probably be able to slow it down for a little bit when it came to Anderson, especially with at least even trying to get a mandatory being the bottleneck that it is right now at heavyweight. So it's a good chance to slow it down. It's a good chance for Anderson to look at the tape, see what he did wrong, and improved on it. Because, yeah, you're the best prospect that the U.S. has right now, but you're not ready yet.
Absolutely. And I think it was his last fight against Arias, uh, Abraham, in which I felt that Big Baby got stunned as well, and it continued in this fight. Daniel mentioned what happened to Big Baby in the fifth round. The last 10 seconds, he got stunned again. And from a technical perspective, what do you see in terms of things that he can improve? Can improve. To me, I look. Daniel mentioned the lack of jab, how he didn't stick to it. To me, impatience as well. Tried too hard to go for the knockout when he got hurt, leaving himself open. To me, he's a fighter who relies too much on his athletic ability.
Yeah, so yes. One of the things that stood out to me the most was how he steps back with his arms down and his chin a little bit exposed. Not a little bit, a lot exposed. It kind of reminds me of a younger Deontay Wilder who used to do that a lot. And so when he faces somebody with a longer reach, that's going to be problematic. And that's one thing that he needs to fix right away in the gym is when he's pulling back, he's got to have those arms up. Like he can't have both hands on his waist side with his chin exposed when he's moving back. Somebody with a longer reach is going to tag him and make him pay for it. The other thing is that I feel like there were spots where he just like lost concentration, and in that split second when he did, Martin caught onto it and stuck the jab out or landed the straight left. So I just think that that also comes with experience because he hadn't been that many rounds with an opponent. So not knowing how to remain focused for that long is something that obviously will come with experience and time, but he needs to continually work on that, and that would mean getting in there with people that are going to, excuse me, they're going to give him rounds. Somebody like potentially like Otto Valin, or you have Efe out there. You got a whole bunch of folks out there that could potentially give him some rounds, but he definitely needs to work on the keeping those hands up and just remaining concentrated during those spots where there's nothing happening and there's gamesmanship going on.
Additional, let me ask you a follow-up question for the both of you fellas. Um, Anderson made a lot of news amongst us boxing hardcore heads for some of his comments leading up to the fight, specifically him saying that he wants to be out of the game by age 27, that he's in it for basically the money at this point. Wrote about it on 3kingsboxing.com. Please check out 3kingsboxing.com, your source for pure unadulterated boxing information. Shout out to the entire 3KB crew. 2K, the head of Three Kings Boxing, Bo, head of media relations, senior writer, who you've heard on the show numerous times in the past. Yours truly, senior writer. Shout out to Bakari, who's also senior writer, and all the contributors behind the scenes, as well as Red, who does a lot of work on the site. But yeah, Big Baby already talking about when he wants to step out. basically saying publicly this is about the money for him more than anything else. Abraham, Daniel, what does this say about his mentality, right? And is there reasons for concern in terms of his mental state, not mental state, but his mental approach? Why is he talking this way so early, talking in this manner so early in his career?
I'm gonna tell you, I think that we are going into a different phase of boxing. Maybe it's like Gen Z guys that um, they aren't going to be boxing lifers, and they also are, a little more vulnerable when it comes to talking about mental health stuff. I think that when with the younger guys, you're gonna see a little bit more of this. I think I wrote about this the other day, where Joshua Franco retired. Ryan Garcia took that break. I don't think that it's so much of a red flag, but more so of him, with his generation of folks that are coming in into the sport, are they're just not doing it long term. And I think that part of it is, letting people know, hey, I'm not going to be doing this for until I'm 40. Like I'm gonna get the bag and I'm gonna roll out and I'm gonna do something else while I got all my faculties with me. Teofimo Lopez just said he was going to retire. That he retired. All these folks, like, there's they the new crop of fighters coming up. They're not looking at this thing as a 15-20 year career. They're looking at this as, hey, let me do what I can during this short period of time and then move on to the next thing.
Is this the just a, basically a trend of millennial Gen Y fighters of today, Daniel? Um, how do your reaction to the words of Big Baby leading up to his win?
Well, first, I have to see it to believe it because we kind of know how retirements in boxing go in many ways. But Abraham is right. This is a trend that's happening because with social media and with the advent of technology, guys are learning about the stories of fighters decades ago that either stuck around too long, they didn't save their money, or like I said they fought one too many fights and then they wound up not being the same anymore. And obviously, unfortunately, I hate to say it, it's not as drastic, but if you think about it, the ultimate case is actually Joe Frazier in many ways, where the only thing he had left, I think, when he died, I don't think he even had that. I think he was probably losing it, if I remember correctly, his gym in Philadelphia. And I think he was living in that gym when he died. There's so many stories about fighters, athletes in general, seemingly being so unprepared for life after their sport that a lot of guys, especially you guys, are starting to learn early. Try to pivot now. Try to leave now when you still have your faculties and when you technically can still start your life at a normal age if you didn't go to athletics. So you might see this more coming in. The main issue is going to be, are you going to stick to it? Because like you mentioned, Joshua Franco, he might he might be one who wants to stick to it because division wise, it's too much of a clash between him and Bam Rodriguez, his brother. And so when they're running to each other, deciding which what division is working on. With Teofimo, there's always now, fortunately, ulterior motive. It could be that he's actually retired, or it could be like Gil, like our good friend Gil Farkathon mentioned when he first popped up. Maybe this is just a way to cover himself while going through a divorce and going through child custody battles. There's a lot of situations like that when you see it, where the situation might stick. And with Jared Anderson, he might be seeing a situation where there be enough people in his ear telling him, "Hey, you're America's best. You're America's best hope to be a multiple belt holder. You just need to do this and that," and that might be the pull because you might tell him, "Hey, you might be the guy that gets American heavyweights more of the Canelo money type of scale, the Floyd money type of scale," and that's going to be enticing for anybody. But it is a trend that you're seeing, and it's a trend that you're learning. The only thing you got to see is you're gonna if somebody follows through with it after making that type of announcement.
Yeah, using Mayweather as an example, these dudes, these younger fighters are built different in part because of how they look at the sport differently from fighters in the past. I think it was Abraham. You said it earlier that they have learned from their predecessors in terms of making sure everything is up on the up and up when it comes to their money, right? And boxing today in 2023, fighters are learning there are more avenues to make some good coin other than in the boxing ring. In short, they don't have to rely on the purses that they get that they receive to make good money. There are many other avenues for them to do that, and given the different money streams that are available for them, many of them feel that they don't have to hang around, right? Um, it's a question of money versus legacy. A lot of old school fans say it's about legacy. A lot of younger fans they don't think that way, or they think it's a mixture of the two. Um, the dichotomy between the attitude of the older generation versus the younger generation um, has been an ongoing debate in boxing circles, and it was stirred up once again by Anderson's comments. But in terms of his ability in the ring, he's promising he has all the talent in the world. But this fight has really showed that there are things that he needs to learn, that he needs to develop if he wants to fulfill his potential and be the best that he can be and exceed or live up to the goals of Top Rank and ESPN. Let's move on to the news here. And I go to you, Daniel. Yeah, last week we talked about Canelo Alvarez signing a deal with PBC. At the time of our recording for last week's show, the word was that Canelo was going to make the first fight of a 3-fight package deal with PBC against Jermell Charlo, reigning BC champion at 116. Well, surprise, 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 as Goldman Powell would say. And he's fighting instead Jermell's twin brother, Jermell. Say what? The same Jermell that's currently undisputed champion at 154 pounds, and the thought that Mel was going to fight Tim Tszyu. What do you make of this? And this is not being hyperbolic here. Stunning development.
It is stunning. It is stunning when you realize what's happened. That okay, it's a 3-fight deal, and you have to think that Benavidez has to evolve somewhere. Has to be involved somewhere. And the fact that this is the fight that we're getting first tells, first of all, it should tell people he's not on the table. Sorry. Even though he signed with Heyman, Benavidez is still off the table with the way this is looking to line up. What's interesting to me in this entire scenario is that first, it's true. This is going to be the first undisputed versus undisputed with the men in the four belt era. And the fact that Mel is willing to jump to weight divisions to do it. And the running joke, I think Tim Zoo actually put it on his Instagram. Oh, Canelo's ducking Benavidez and Mel's ducking Zoo, and they're fighting each other. I wouldn't say so much that that's the case because, first of all, you have to give big ups to Mel. You have to give him some help. We expect Maul to be the one that's be the one facing up, but Mel is kind of like the Darrell brothers situation to me. One of the brothers has the skill, the other one has the tenacity that each other needed to become a much better fighter. Same situation. Although a little bit more even in this case, but Mel does have that tenacity where he can really say, in fact, somebody unearthed it. Somebody, I think when Canelo, it wasn't when he was fighting John Ryder. I think it was when he was fighting Caleb Plant. Somebody actually on Twitter put out the footage of Mel on ringside, and he was already talking about beating Canelo then. Looking at that fight, it's like, oh yeah, he's slowing down. He's getting tired. I can beat him. So kudos to Jermell Charlo to taking that stride because from all I've been hearing, 168 tends to be his walk around weight. So it's not going to be a situation where he's going to need to bulk up more than he needs to. He just needs to make sure that he stays lean enough where it doesn't affect it that much. Also keep in mind, look at the date that this is put in. It's not Mexican Independence Day weekend. It's September 30th. That should be telling within the boxing community because if we remember, UFC booked the T-Mobile Arena Mexican Independence Day weekend. And Canelo could have gone to Jerry World, but I think there's a schedule conflict there. They could have done this in Minute Maid Park. No, but they want to do this in Las Vegas on the 30th. That also should tell you that as much as we say Canelo is the main draw in boxing, there's a limit now to where it's starting to reach where if Vegas is willing to say we'll take the UFC over you on arguably the most lucrative date in the American sports calendar for boxing, that's pretty telling. But let's say big ups to Mel. Harley trains hard. And it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to do after this, win or lose. Because if he wins, then yeah, he's dropping the 154 belts. If he loses, is he willing to just go up to 160, depending upon how he feels about this fight?
The reverberations continue, Abraham, in the aftermath of this. As the points that Daniel just raised, what does it say about Charlo making this move up to 168 pounds? Tim Zoo is interim champion WBO at 154. Is the WBO set to strip Charlo of that WBO belts and Tim Zoo gets moved up to full-time champion? What does it say about Jamal, right? He was supposedly in line to get the fight, and yet he's not, and his twin brother's getting the fight instead. And if I'm one David Benavidez, who's been calling this dude out basically all of 2023, he's been very public about his desire to fight Alvarez. What does it say of him that he's getting totally annoyed for a 154 pounder?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot here, man. So it's funny. Before Tim Zoo's last fight, I spoke to him for an interview, and I asked him. I was like, you know, Charlo saw your fight from the studio, and he was calling it. Do you feel like after that Harrison fight, like he might have thought, maybe I need a little more time to to get ready for this fight? He laughed and he was like, I think so, because he's stretching this hand thing out longer than I've ever seen anybody else, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Um, and so he said that, it made me think. And then when this Canelo news came out, I thought to myself, is somewhere in that middle when he said he wasn't going to be ready in July, and that it was going to be in the fall. I think at that point is when they tapped him on the shoulder, was like, hey, there's an opportunity here for a Canelo fight. Now, he could have taken the Zoo fight, which is more risk than reward. If we want to be honest, especially in the US, maybe in Australia might be a little bit more bang for his buck, but here in the US is more risk than reward. Of course, he's going to take the Canelo fight if he's offered that. Why wouldn't he? And just like Daniel mentioned, he walks around like 175 anyway. So he's a big enough guy that he'll feel it nice. I tell you that he'll probably come in somewhere around 164, 165 at the weigh-in, more than likely, because he's not gonna want to carry all that weight, throughout camp. But yeah, good on him, man. He's doing his thing. He's got the fight. Jermell. Jermell's got a lot of stuff going on, and he knows that it was going to be easy pickings for Canelo. Fighting him coming off of a two and a half year layoff, or a little bit less than 2.5 years, but you get what I'm saying. It would have been easy pickings, and he wasn't going to try to do that. So it looks like to me, and this might not be the popular take, but it looks like it's Mel, then it's Maul in May, and then it's Earl Spence Jr. in September of 2024 at Dallas Stadium in front of 100,000 people.
Again, Benavidez has to be ticked. David Morrell has to be ticked. I've been saying on here that that Andrade deserves it because he's been chasing him for nearly a decade. He has to be ticked. Kovalev, not Kovalev, excuse me, but Bivol, who had no problems fighting Alvarez so long as it was at 168 pounds. He's left out the picture as well. So the domino effect continue to fall, and again, very very interesting move here to make this fight. Again, they're going to fight September 30th in Las Vegas, and we'll keep you abreast with any updated information. We'll continue to cover the upcoming fight here on Pound for Pound Boxing Report. If you are checking us out on YouTube and you're looking at the description, there's a fight that I omitted. I was in the haste to talk about the breaking the news regarding Alvarez and Mel Charlo, but there was a world title fight that took place in South Africa last week on Sunday. And I'll get this right quick because I covered it live at 3kingboxing.com. As IBF Junior Flyweight Champion, Sivenatho Nonthshinga made the first defense of that title, fought mandatory challenger Regie Suganob. Suganob being from the Philippines. That fight took place in South Africa. You can actually check the fight on Matchroom Boxing, their YouTube page. They carried it live, and it's still up there now. The full fight is up on their YouTube page. Anyway, Nonthshinga won the bout September last year against Hector Flores, split decision. Very exciting fight. He had to gut it out in the end to win. Again, made the first fight against Suganob and put Suganob down on the mat. 10 seconds to go in the first round. And basically from that point on, he had control, did whatever he wanted. Suganob, he tried to apply pressure, but just didn't have the fast enough feet. Didn't know how to cut off the ring, as Nonthshinga did an excellent job of keeping the jab in his face. Whenever Suganob would try to rush and attack, the champion was able to pop him with 2, 3, 4 punch combinations, display excellent foot movement, good defense after the fight. He said that his aim is to unify, is to take over 108 pounds. To quote him word for word, they must know that there's a new kid on the block. And this is for both of you. Only 24 is Nonthshinga. Oh, what say of y'all that he's calling for unification? We know there's Kenshiro Taraji out there, unified champion. Kenshiro coming off with the win over Ola Skawaga this past April, but many people remember him for his making relatively easy work of Koguchi to become unified champion last fall. Nonthshinga has a deal with Matchroom with their connections in their poll over at Matchroom. Do you think Hearn would entertain a fight, say, in the next 12 to 18 months? Would say a Nonthshinga and a Taraji for in another unification bout at 108 pounds.
Oh, I love me some Kenshiro, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I love to see that fight. Kenshiro is a beast, and if they're gonna do that fight, for it to make sense for both of them, it would have to be in Japan, and I don't see Hearn, resisting him his fighter getting maybe double the pay to go over to Japan and fight Kenshiro over there in front of a big crowd. So I think it happens if they can sit down and get it all hashed out, but it's going to have to happen in Japan. I did want to add one quick note to the previous conversation if I can. Something to chew on. David Benavidez moving up and fighting Artur Beterbiev in the first quarter of 2024. So leave it at
that. I'll go to you, Daniel, for a bout between Kenshiro and Nonthshinga to happen. It's going to have a lot of work has to be done, right? Kenshiro has an upcoming title defense against Heke Butler, who took step aside money for Kenshiro to fight Koguchi. And then should he fight Butler and win, Kenshiro is likely to fight WBO champion Jonathan Gonzalez. So there's a lot of hurdles to jump over for a possible unification bout between Kenshiro and the fighter from South Africa. But if both have the same goal of becoming the man at 108, anything is possible.
Yes, it is. And we know that because anything is possible, we also know, fortunately, that Kenshiro is not invincible already at this stage. Now, imagine the story, okay, Kenshiro fights Heke Butler and loses. Then you have an instant mega fight in South Africa. Pretty much the fight for South African dominance in a way. There's so many avenues where this can go, but if the plan for Kenshiro is to do Butler and then Gonzalez is going to be around the 18-month area, which is a perfect timetable for, sorry, I can't pronounce his name, but to get better, to get some title defenses under his belt more, and to be even more prepared for that fight with Kenshiro, because I agree with Abraham, it is going to be in Japan. There's almost no other way you can have it other than Japan.
So yeah, I just want to go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say that's the only way to have it in Japan, because that's the main place to get the money at this weight.
100%, 100%. Again, I just want to mention that because I did put it in the description, and I didn't want to just put that in there and not talk about it. But that last point Abraham, you mentioned about Benavidez. Um, is that what you're hearing from insider or from your sources?
No, so I know, but that is the only thing that would that would keep Benavidez from spazzing out and not getting the Canelo fight, especially since he's the interim WBC, right? So if he decided he wanted to go up to 175, he'd get first crack, per how the WBC handles business. So with Bivol and Beterbiev not being able to have their undisputed fight because of the stupid WBC rule that they said that they're supporting Ukraine or whatever. Um, I think this is the next biggest fight. If he beats Smith, Beterbiev and Benavidez, like I really can see that happening on the first quarter of next year, maybe even in the summer.
It is reasonable to make
So,
because it's reasonable to make because luckily, even though Benavides is not it's a PBC fighter, he does technically actually have one over Samson Likowitz, and him and Bob can work together. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. I also wouldn't mind seeing Benavides try to fight Bivol just as a spite, just to spite Canelo in a way. Try to say like I'm gonna beat the guy that you couldn't beat at this weight. Even though from a technical standpoint, I think he might lose.
Now I've heard Bivol and Benavidez, like their sparring sessions was crazy in Southern California. My man Albert Baker was out there and he witnessed it and he was like, it was some like real deal stuff. So he definitely would. He said that Benavidez Bivol fight would be crazy, based on the sparring that he saw them have in Southern California not too long ago. Like in the last couple of years.
man, look, if he doesn't get if he can't get a fight with Canelo because Canelo's being so dismissive of him, yeah, bring that fight on between Benavidez and Bivol. That's one of the best fights that could be made. We will keep you updated on that fluid situation. Let's move on to preview some fights here that's happening this upcoming weekend, and I'll go back to you on this one, Daniel. The return of Vergil Ortiz, right? Fighting Stanionis at 147 pounds. Stanionis, I think he has correct me if I'm wrong, a regular belt, WBA regular champion, right? And this fight is attempts have been made to, there have been several attempts to make this fight, but Ortiz has had to bow out on a couple occasions because falling ill. I'm not going to try to pronounce the physical condition that he suffers from, which has forced him to withdraw from this, to postpone this fight on two occasions. So there's how can I put this? So there's lingering questions about the physical status of Ortiz coming into this fight because of him having to postpone this on two other occasions. Aside from that, Daniel, you can follow up Abraham. Am I wrong in thinking that even let's just say Ortiz is 100%, Stanionis is really going to give him a lot of problems based on style because Stanionis, he's right there. He's going to be in his face. He throws punches and bunches. He has decent power, and I think he has a pretty solid beard. So at the very least, this has the makings of an entertaining fight. However many rounds it goes. If Ortiz is 100%, I make him the favorite, Daniel and Abraham. But uh, I think Stanionis has a good shot at giving Ortiz the toughest fight of his career.
It is, and it's actually one of the reasons probably why even with the delays, we have to remember Virgil's illness was one illness, and then Stanionis is getting hurt, I think, was also another delay. So even with those delays, they were willing to stick around to when otherwise you could have asked to have a more of a tune-up fight for Virgil coming back into this. It should, which should say a lot that how Golden Boy views Virgil in this situation and what they view his potential to be. Because out of that Golden Boy stable, even with Ryan, Virgil seems to be the one that's most ready to really take the next step, especially in one of the glamour divisions at welterweight. This is going to be a very, very entertaining fight because Virgil is out there to prove a point, and so is Stanionis. He's going to be there to prove a point, and I will be very, very surprised if we actually go to the judges in this fight. The main thing we're going to watch is, we're going to see how Virgil's going to react like in the first 4 rounds, because coming back from his illness, especially when later systems they said it was a complication from long COVID, we have to see how it shapes up, because we've seen fighters who had COVID, their first fight afterwards, they don't really look as good as they should. So this is going to be a very, very entertaining fight. And considering there's another fight happening that we're going to be talking about, it's going to lead to a clash that we all see what's coming, especially now that Bud and Spence are actually going to fight each other.
On the undercard, Abraham, unification bout. At 112 pounds, Marlen Esparza, who has the WBC, WBA belt at 112. She's fighting Gabriela, Celeste, Alaniz, who's the WBO champion. Look, Esparza, she gets a lot of attention, right, over on Golden Boy. These two fights are going to be in San Antonio, going to be aired live on the Zone. Esparza gets a lot of attention, but the question for me is, Abraham, how good is she really, right? We all remember her for the fight against Sinisi Estrada, significantly smaller woman, even though Super Bad is one of the best women's pound for pound fighters in the world. I saw Esparza win the title. I remember her becoming unified champion, but I still have questions about her. I've seen Alaniz on film, and I think this is the most slept on fight of the weekend. I think this has the potential to be the best fight of the weekend. Tell me why I am wrong for not thinking that, even though Esparza is the A-side fighter here, that it could end up with Alaniz beating her Saturday night.
Man, this is the thing. Esparza, the thing I like about Esparza is that she is a traditional boxer. Like for all the definition of a traditional boxer, she is that. And she's a rhythm fighter. She sticks behind that jab, and she's moving around. And I think that, like, if you're the hardcore purist that enjoys seeing that in motion, that you like Marlen Esparza for that. Obviously, there's been questions about her physical fitness with her weight and stuff, because it seems like she kind of struggles to get down a little bit, and then afterwards she kind of balloons up a little, giving her a little bit of an advantage. But I think that with Marlen, she is perfectly made for not not only the 2-minute rounds, but also the 2 minute 10 round fights. She can do that all night. Stick the jab out, 1-2, move, step to the side, clinch a little bit. She could do that all night. Now, against Gabriela, I haven't seen much film of her, but she has quite a few knockouts and she's undefeated. She's from Argentina, 27 years old, a little younger. They call her La Chucky. So I don't know. I think that there's always the possibility of her disrupting Esparza's reign. But if Marlen does what Marlen does normally, this is a 10 round, you know, unanimous decision.
The problem is that while Marlene is a good boxer, I see lapses in concentration when I watch her fight, and I see her get in there are too many occasions for my taste where I've seen her get hit flush, right, and
Yep.
she's up against someone who can pop with both hands, and she's a bit aggressive as well. The Argentinian Alaniz, known as Chucky, she got that little wild streak in her, right, and I think she's coming to fight. She's really coming to fight. She wants to be unified champion just as bad as Esparza, right? She has ambitions of becoming that person in the division. I mean, she wouldn't have took this fight for any other reason. And again, Ortiz is getting all the pub, and Stanionis and Ortiz is getting all the pub, and deservedly so. But I think this upcoming fight with the ladies here has the ability to steal the show.
Yep. And wouldn't it be fitting? It would actually be almost what, the third week in a row, or the third major DAZN card in a row, where probably the fight of the night is the women's fight. That would
Yeah,
be very, very telling, because like I said, I like Marlon. She, to me, is a very good classical fighter. It's one of the reasons why, even though, yeah, I would also agree with the common sentiment that a rematch with her and Tunisia would be a bad idea for her front.
she
I
don't
still
want
want to
that.
see that fight. I still want to see that
She
fight.
she don't want it.
It'll depend to see how it goes, but it's going to be interesting because, unfortunately, a lot of Marlon's flaws make it so almost every fight that she has in makes her look beatable, and then she pulls it through at the end. This probably going to be a very, very fun fight because, like Virgil, Marlon's going to point. He's going to have the point to prove, especially like you mentioned, the publicity. Everybody's mainly just talking about Virgil, and you talk about Stanionis. This is just kind of another fight on the side, and I would not be surprised if Marlon and Gabriela go out there and they just decide, let's just steal the night.
Yeah, these two fights are going to again take place in San Antonio, Texas. Going to be aired live on the Zone. On the same night in Atlantic City on Showtime, you have the return of Boots Ennis Abraham, and really you can't. There's a certain interplay between Ortiz and Boots. Both guys are considered the next ones at 147 pounds. Ennis coming off of his last fight, which he didn't look great against, fighting a Roiman Villa, who scored the upset win over Rashidi Ellis in January. A lot of people, myself included, felt that Ellis won, but in that last round, Villa put Speedy Ellis down twice in that round. If that was an old school 15-round bout, Ellis probably would have stopped Speed. I mean, excuse me, Villa would have probably stopped Rashidi Ellis. Uh, Everything here says that if that Boots Ennis is the better fighter, right? More athletic, quick twitch muscles, faster, better uh, footwork. But the thing that Villa has is power. And if Ennis comes in lackadaisical, not taking him seriously, Villa has the power, and he showed that he gets Rashidi Ellis to hurt anyone he can hit. I'm going with Boots to win this fight because the thing that Boots has on his side, he can punch as well for 147 pounds. And I don't think Villa has been in the ring with someone who has the just overall physical package that Boots Ennis has. But Ennis himself, he has to be careful here. He can't be, lazy in there, and he has to have good eye discipline all night long because he's in the ring with someone who can crack.
Yeah, this Ennis is gonna go back to what got him here. He's gonna use that 74-inch reach to hit Villa from a distance where he isn't going to be threatened with any of Villa's punches, and he's gonna beat him up from the outside, use his speed and legs to get himself away from any type of danger, and he's gonna end up stopping Villa like in the middle rounds, somewhere around the fifth or sixth round. I don't see Villa's got pop. It's just that Ennis is just at a different level, and I just don't think that Ennis is gonna stink it up 2 fights in a row. I was there at that fight in DC, and he it felt like he put way too much pressure on himself to try to do something instead of going to what got him there, which is his natural abilities and his natural flow of the fight. And I think he's going to go back to that on this one. And we're going to see Ennis prevail, look great. I think this is a perfect matchmaking situation for him. And then he's going to end up being the full champion once Spence and Crawford move up to 154.
Do you agree, Daniel, that Boots Ennis will return to form and have the kind of performance that has many calling him the future of the division and the next up and coming star?
He has the potential. He has the potential to do it. And we have to always keep in mind him and Vergil, they're eyeing each other. They're each going to be paying attention to what the other is going to be doing that night. The one thing, unfortunately, that bothers me about Boots, and it's probably why I give the edge, currently still, the edge to Vergil over him, is that fight with Delorme. Even though he won that fight in a emphatic fashion.
The fact that Delorme rocked him?
Yep, rocked him right before that. My immediate mind went, if Vergil hit him with that, Boots ain't getting up. He has to show that he has to get over that. And luckily for him, Villa doesn't have the power to test him on that. Not the full power to test him on that. But that's going to be the hurdle that's going to need to be crossed because, like I said, with Spence and Bud fighting each other, more than likely, because at that point then Vergil will have a belt that can get him to the mandatory, and Boots already has that. They're going to have to settle who's going to be next. And they may have to settle it with each other. So they're both going to be looking at each other. This, even Boots even says, this fight's more tailor-made for him. Somebody that is probably going to give him rounds, test him, but not be enough of a danger to where he's really going to be at risk. At that point, Vergil's actually taking more of a risk than Stanionis. So this is going to be a very fun fight because I honestly would not be surprised if we hear at the end of the night both of them call each other out.
Hey Daniel, I think you're forgetting somebody, and that's Alexis Rocha in all of this. I think we get Vergil Ortiz versus Alexis Rocha in 2024. before we get a Boots Ennis fight.
Both of them are signed with Golden Boy, so that would make
Yeah.
a lot of sense because the way it stands right now with Spence and Crawford fighting each other, it's likely they're going to fight a rematch because there is a rematch clause. It'll be a while before Ortiz or Ennis gets a fight at the I know they're interim regular champion, but we all know who the real champions are at that division. So it'll be a while before they get their title shot. So yeah, it's certainly understandable why you would have that why you would throw that scenario out there. I'll go to you. Daniel has said repeatedly here on Pound for Pound Boxing Report that he would lean towards Ortiz in a kind of fantasy matchup with Ennis. Just put you on put the spotlight on you, Abraham. Let's just say Ortiz and Boots Ennis fight at some point. Who you got?
Ooh, honestly, like this is gonna sound a little cliche-ish when I say this, but I have to see how both of them look on Saturday because one is coming off of a lackluster performance and the other one is coming off of not fighting for 11 months. I just got to see what they look like currently. Based on how they've looked in the past, I would say maybe Ennis has the edge, but I have to see what they look like currently, and we won't know that till Saturday to really see like where they're at in their career. Because who knows? What if Vergil can't make 147 anymore and he moves up to 154 next year? Then we're never gonna get that fight. So I think that right now I'd have to say Ennis has the edge, slight edge, very slight edge, but an edge regardless. And but it'd be a great fight. I'd love to see it.
I agree 100%, and I think we're going to end things on that note. If you're checking us out on YouTube, please make sure to hit that like button. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. It'll help the overall algorithms get us closer to being monetized. Going around the panel here. Usually with Gail on, we begin and start the show with we begin and end the show with ladies first. But since you first time guest Abraham, I'll go to you. Abraham Gonzalez, a Pro Box TV, Fanside MMA, Ring Magazine for those who want to talk sweet science or anything boxing. Want to talk anything boxing related? Excuse me. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yeah, preferably on Twitter at AbeG718. And I do have an audio podcast, the Boxing Rush Hour Show, on all audio platforms if you want to check me out from time to time. But yeah, Twitter at AbeG718. Shout at me, send me a DM, whatever. And let's talk. Let's talk boxing. Let's talk sweet science. Thank you for having me on the show, Michael.
Indeed. Appreciate you coming on, and hope to have you on again. Whenever you want, the invitation, the door is open. The invitation is out there for you to return as many times as you want, as you like.
Thank you.
Daniel from 4Boxing News, in the Inscriber for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk pro wrestling, for those who want to talk Miami Heat. Check out the latest episode of the Inscriber, which he went in full detail, in depth about Damian Lillard announcing that he wants to be traded. And of course, for those who follow NBA, Lillard, his first destination spot is with the Miami Heat. For those who want to talk boxing, wrestling, pro wrestling, the Miami Heat specifically, Daniel, where can people hit you up?
You can still find me on Twitter, Rawkins99, RAWKZ99. Yeah, it's been a full day dealing with the Dame thing. But we're also trying to, like I said, it's the same handle on almost all the other apps. In case Elon does sing Twitter to the ground, same link, same handle on Mastodon, and now even same handle.
Blue Sky. I'm just saying.
I need an invite, man. I need an invite. I need that invite code to get the Blue Sky. But I am trying out the Zuckerberg one for a little bit. So far, it's the cleanest one out of all of them. But we got to see how it goes, and yeah, hopefully it's gonna be good weekend. But just one quick word, Matt Moore, Howard Paroxysm, man, just relax, just relax, my man. We know what you're getting at.
Indeed, indeed. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, you know what it is with me on Twitter, brother JR76. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and fragrance, brother JRSC on IG and TikTok. Particularly for those who want to check out my scent of the day, since I am a cologne fragrance a collector. So again, if you look, brother JR, brother JR76 for boxing, music, fitness on Twitter, brother JRSC for boxing, music, fitness, and fragrance. On the next episode, we will do a we will do a recap of Stanionis, Vergil Ortiz, Esparza, um, Gabriela, Celeste, Alaniz, Boots Ennis, fighting via. We may talk Jojo Diaz because he's also fighting on the undercard of Ortiz Stanionis. Floyd Schofield, rising lightweight prospect, is fighting on that card as well. Um, so we will recap as many of those fights on those two cards as we can, and we will do a preview. The return of Nonito Donaire fighting Alexandro, Santiago for the vacant WBC bantamweight title. That's going to be July 15th in Las Vegas on Showtime. On the undercard of that fight, Frank Martin, very, very good lightweight, being managed by Errol Spence. He returns to the ring. Also on the 15th in Detroit on the Zone, Alicia Baumgartner, undisputed champion, women's champion at 130 pounds, fighting a rematch with the only woman who's defeated Baumgartner in her professional career, Christina Leonardartau. That's going to be again in Detroit. On the undercard of that, Richardson Hitchens fighting Montana Love, the professional debut of 2020 gold medalist and MVP of the 2020 boxing Olympic tournament, Andy Cruz. He makes his professional debut there. So we will talk about all of those fights again. If you're checking this out on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Again, I want to thank Abraham for joining us on the show. So again, the invitation is open. Anytime you want to come back, just let me know, or I'll have you back on. So for Abraham Gonzalez of Pro Box TV, Fanside, MMA, Ring Magazine, for Daniel of For Boxing News, and the Inscriber, I am your host, Michael. This has been episode 411 of the Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.